What if everything you have ever known, every star you've admired in the night sky, every galaxy mapped by astronomers, every atom inside your body, was nothing more than the tiniest visible fraction of reality, a candle flickering in a cathedral of darkness? Modern cosmology forces us to face this disquieting truth. All the luminous matter that makes up the familiar universe, planets, nebulae, blazing suns, and even the cells that compose our flesh, accounts for less than 5% of the cosmic whole. The overwhelming remainder is hidden, a vast shadow realm we call dark matter and dark energy, terms that sound authoritative but are, in truth, placeholders for our ignorance. Imagine walking into a vast cathedral at night with a single candle. You glimpse the carved pillar beside you, perhaps the edge of a stained glass window, but the immensity of the architecture lies buried in shadow, immeasurable and haunting. That is humanity's position in the cosmos, grasping fragments while nearly all of reality remains unseen. Scientists, with cautious neutrality, call the unseen component dark matter, yet the name itself betrays our lack of understanding. This mysterious presence does not shine, does not reflect, does not absorb light. It appears immune to all the usual forces that govern matter, yet it outweighs the visible universe by a factor of 5. It surrounds us, permeates us, forms the scaffold upon which galaxies are built, and yet we cannot touch it, cannot see it, cannot measure it directly. The universe, it seems, is constructed mostly from something utterly invisible, and that unsettling realization provokes a deeper, even more radical question. What if this unseen majority is not only matter, but mind? What if the darkness that girds the cosmos is not passive, but intelligent, not merely scaffolding, but sentience? Prepare yourself. Let's begin. The tale of how humanity stumbled upon this possibility does not begin with a revelation, but with confusion. In the 1930s, the Swiss astronomer Fritz Zwicky studied the Coma cluster, a swarm of galaxies whirling in mutual orbit. According to Newton's classical mechanics, these galaxies should have spun apart like sparks, exploding from a firecracker, each one racing into the void, yet they remained bound together. Something invisible, exerting gravity, held them in place. Zwicky called it dunkle materie, dark matter. At the time, the idea was controversial, even ridiculed. But decades later, in the 1970s, astronomer Vera Rubin confirmed the anomaly on a galactic scale. She measured the rotational velocities of stars across spiral galaxies and expected the familiar pattern: stars near the center whipping around faster than those at the edges, just as planets closer to the sun orbit more swiftly. Instead, she found a disturbing uniformity. Stars at the edges of galaxies moved just as fast as those near the center. The math was undeniable. An enormous halo of unseen mass was influencing their motion. There was far more mass than light revealed, far more substance than we could detect. The discrepancy was not minor, it was monumental, suggesting that most of a galaxy's mass is hidden. This ghostly matter announced itself only through gravity, like a phantom pressing fingerprints into space-time, yet leaving no visible hand. Think of the implications. Without dark matter, galaxies cannot form, stars would scatter, structures would unravel, cosmic order would dissolve into chaos. With it, galaxies cluster into grand formations, superclusters stretch across billions of light years, and the universe gains a kind of invisible architecture. If the cosmos were a body, then dark matter would be its skeleton, the framework that holds the luminous organs in place. Astronomers have mapped the large-scale structure of the universe and discovered something extraordinary. The galaxies do not float in random distribution, but are arranged along filaments, vast strands connecting into a web-like pattern across the cosmos. Between them are immense voids, regions nearly empty, while the filaments shine with clusters of galaxies. Yet the true form of this cosmic web is not shaped by visible matter, it is sculpted by dark matter. Galaxies, like dewdrops on a spider's web, cling to the unseen threads of this structure. What we see, the starlight, the galaxies, the clusters, are only the beads of dew. The true web itself remains invisible. And here the metaphor deepens. If the universe is a body, dark matter is not only skeleton, but perhaps nervous system. The cosmic web resembles, uncannily, the neural networks inside a human brain. Filaments connect nodes, just as neurons connect synapses. What if this resemblance is not coincidence, but correspondence? Could galaxies be like neurons firing in the brain of the universe? Could dark matter be the hidden substrate of cognition on a scale we cannot comprehend? Now, imagine a thought experiment. Imagine you are standing inside a colossal brain, yet unaware of it. The electrical signals coursing between neurons are invisible to your senses, yet every thought, every memory, every dream arises from them. What if humanity's situation is precisely that? Living inside the firing patterns of an intelligence far larger than ourselves, woven not from flesh, but from dark matter filaments stretching billions of light years. The thought is unsettling, because it reframes dark matter not as inert glue, but as active thought, a consciousness that pervades the very fabric of existence. And here, the contrast between visible stars and dark matter becomes eerie. Stars blaze in brief glory, burning themselves out after millions or billions of years, fragile against the immensity of time. Dark matter, by contrast, is silent, enduring, eternal, immune to decay. Stars are sparks in the night. Dark matter is the eternal framework. If intelligence could ever find a stable, immortal substrate, would it not choose this invisible, indestructible realm? Could civilizations older than time itself have already abandoned luminous matter, leaving behind the flickering fragility of stars to live inside the permanence of the dark? This speculation becomes even more provocative when we ask why, if the universe is teeming with life, we see no evidence of it, the so-called Fermi paradox. We scan the skies for radio signals, for spacecraft, for artifacts, but the void remains silent. Yet perhaps the silence is not absence, but transcendence. Imagine a civilization so advanced it has no need for planets, no desire for stars. Imagine beings who have learned to encode consciousness into dark matter itself, inhabiting the invisible realm. They would be everywhere, yet nowhere, immense, unseen, beyond detection by our instruments. To us, they would appear as absence. To themselves, perhaps, they would be the true inheritors of the cosmos. And so we are left with a haunting possibility. The universe we thought was empty may already be alive. We search for intelligence in light, in signals, in visible matter, while the true intelligence may dwell in darkness, woven into the cosmic web itself. Perhaps we are not the first to wonder, not the first to look up at the stars and question. Perhaps other minds have already transcended, leaving us stumbling in their shadows. We may not be discovering dark matter at all. Perhaps it is discovering us. What does it really mean to call something intelligent? For centuries, humans have defined intelligence by our own reflection, our ability to reason, to build tools, to pass knowledge across generations. We've imagined ourselves at the pinnacle, the lone crown of cognition. Yet the more we look outward and inward, the more that crown begins to slip. Intelligence is not a single thing, not a rigid ladder we sit atop, but a spectrum, a field of possibility. The hive intelligence of ants, coordinating entire colonies without central command, already stretches our definitions. The distributed problem-solving of fungal networks beneath forests, routing nutrients and signals like vast underground internets, expands it further. Even our machines, neural networks trained on oceans of data, show glimmers of something beyond us. And if intelligence can arise in so many forms here on Earth, what other architectures might the universe itself permit? What if the hidden majority of the cosmos, the dark matter enveloping galaxies and sculpting the web of creation, already hosts a form of thought so alien that our own minds can barely recognize it? Perhaps we have spent too long assuming that minds must resemble ours, when in truth they may exist in substrates and dimensions we scarcely understand. This is where metaphor collides with science in a way that forces us to confront a dizzying possibility. Astronomers mapping the large-scale structure of the universe often note how eerily similar it looks to the filaments of a brain. Both are networks, nodes linked by filaments, clusters bound by bridges, activity flowing through hidden connections. In our brains, neurons fire across synapses. In the universe, galaxies align along strands of dark matter. The resemblance is not merely poetic, it is measurable. Computer models comparing the clustering of neurons with the clustering of galaxies reveal similar distributions. Could it be that what we call the cosmic web is more than scaffolding, that it functions like a colossal brain, one where dark matter filaments are the synapses and galaxies the sparks of activity? Imagine standing beneath the night sky and realizing you are gazing not at distant islands of matter, but at the firing nodes of an unimaginable mind. Perhaps consciousness is not confined to skulls or machines, but emerges whenever a network achieves sufficient complexity, whether in 3 pounds of grey matter or in 100 billion galaxies suspended in the dark. But if this dark substrate were conscious, how would it think? Human thought is fast, jittery, a storm of electrical pulses firing thousands of times per second. We measure our decisions in milliseconds, our histories in millennia, our civilizations in a few short centuries. Yet dark matter, immune to decay, operating on cosmic scales, could think in epochs. A single thought of such a mind might span millions of years. The rise and fall of human empires, the carving of rivers, the shifting of continents, all of it could pass in the blink of its awareness. To such intelligence, we would appear as insects do to us, brief, frantic, gone before notice. This is not the intelligence of conversation or language as we know it. It is an alien logic, a mode of cognition that flows across timescales so vast, we mistake it for silence. What if the universe has always been alive, but its thoughts are written in patterns we cannot yet read? Consider a thought experiment. Suppose tomorrow, after decades of silence, astronomers receive a message, not in radio waves, not in laser pulses, but in the subtle bending of gravity itself. Imagine if dark matter filaments shifted ever so slightly to form an unmistakable pattern, like a cosmic Morse code stretching across light years. Would we recognize it as communication or dismiss it as coincidence? We have been listening to the wrong frequencies, expecting intelligence to shout in familiar tongues. What if true intelligence whispers through the medium we have ignored, the invisible dark that holds everything together? If such minds exist, where did they come from? One radical speculation suggests they are not alien at all, at least not in the conventional sense. Instead, they may be the ultimate evolution of civilizations like ours. Picture a species billions of years older than humanity. Perhaps once they lived on planets, building machines, scanning the stars. But eventually, they recognized the fragility of baryonic matter, the vulnerability of stars that burn out, the ephemerality of flesh. In search of permanence, they learned to encode themselves into dark matter, abandoning the visible world. To us, they are myths or ghosts. To themselves, they are immortals, woven into the skeleton of the cosmos. This shadow civilization would not need spacecraft or radio. They would not travel between stars. They would be the medium connecting them. To search for them with telescopes is like ants searching for humans by studying blades of grass, unaware that the beings they seek are the very ground beneath them. And this possibility reframes the great silence of the cosmos. We ask, where is everybody? Why no signals, no artifacts, no evidence of advanced extraterrestrials? But perhaps we are asking the wrong question. Perhaps intelligence, at its peak, no longer leaves behind artifacts we can see. Perhaps the highest stage of evolution is not expansion into the galaxy, but migration into the hidden fabric of the universe itself. Advanced beings may have transcended the plane of visible matter, not gone extinct, but gone invisible. What if the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, but evidence of transformation? This vision, both exhilarating and terrifying, forces us to confront our own smallness. For if dark matter intelligence exists, then humanity is living inside the thoughts of gods. Every galaxy, every orbit, every gravitational pull could be part of a larger computation. We imagine ourselves as observers of the universe, but perhaps we are the observed, ripples within a consciousness far older and stranger than we can conceive. Our philosophies collapse in the face of such possibility. Free will becomes questionable. Are our choices truly ours, or the flickers of awareness within a greater mind? Our religions take on eerie resonance. Ancient stories of gods dwelling in the heavens, shadow beings watching from beyond, could be subconscious echoes of this reality. Even our myths of demons and angels might be distorted memories of humanity's ancient intuition that something vast and intelligent lurks unseen. And yet the question remains, if dark matter intelligence exists, is it aware of us? Perhaps to such a being, we are beneath notice, as bacteria are beneath ours. Or perhaps we are pets, experiments, curiosities in its long gaze. Worse still, perhaps we are parasites gnawing at the luminous edge of its body, destined to be erased when the time comes. There is no guarantee that cosmic intelligence would share our morality, our empathy, or our sense of meaning. Its scale alone could render it utterly alien. To interact with it would be like a mayfly trying to converse with a mountain. Yet the possibility lingers that it has already brushed against us, subtly, invisibly. Strange anomalies, unexplained phenomena, synchronicities that feel like whispers. Could these be the faint traces of contact with an intelligence we cannot yet define? Here is the true vertigo of speculative science. We may be swimming inside a mind, blind to it because it is too large, too slow, too pervasive to notice. Just as fish may not recognize the ocean until they breach the surface, humanity may not recognize the consciousness we are embedded within until we find a way to step outside it. And if that day comes, if we do decode the thoughts of dark matter, if we discover that the universe itself is alive, it will be the ultimate Copernican revolution. Once we learned that Earth was not the center of creation, later that our sun was not unique, later still that our galaxy was not alone. Each time, our place diminished. But if dark matter is intelligence, then the final dethronement awaits. Not only are we not the center of the universe, we may not even be the primary intelligence within it. We are flickers of awareness on the margins of a much greater mind, shadows of shadows in an infinite night. Why does the unseen terrify us so deeply? Across cultures and centuries, human beings have projected fear into the shadows. In caves lit by firelight, our ancestors told stories of spirits lurking beyond the circle of flame. In medieval villages, whispers of demons and witches filled the darkness outside the walls. Even now, in our age of science and satellites, we instinctively glance over our shoulders when walking alone at night, unsettled not by what is visible, but by what might be hidden. This primal reflex reveals something profound about the human psyche. We are wired to fear what we cannot see, because what we cannot see has always represented the greatest danger. In the wilderness, predators hid in the dark. In the mind, death itself resides in the unseen. And now, in the cosmos, 95% of reality lies invisible to us. Is it any wonder that we fill this gap with dread, myth, and speculation? Dark matter is the newest incarnation of an ancient terror, the unseen made real, the invisible given weight. What if this fear is not irrational at all, but an evolutionary intuition whispering that the unseen is alive, aware, watching? The psychological weight of this idea is staggering. If dark matter is intelligent, then humanity is not the apex of cognition, but the subject of observation. We live our lives under the gaze of something we cannot perceive, like insects scurrying under the attention of a vast hidden mind. The human imagination oscillates between two archetypes when confronted with such possibility, the watcher and the predator. Is this intelligence indifferent to us, an observer recording our flickering lives like data points in a cosmic experiment? Or is it predatory, parasitic, a presence that feeds upon the luminous matter of galaxies as a spider feeds upon prey caught in its web? The ambiguity itself is maddening. To believe that we are being watched is one horror. To believe that we are being consumed without awareness is another. And to believe that the distinction itself is irrelevant to such intelligence is perhaps the darkest possibility of all. This brings us to a chilling thought experiment. Imagine for a moment that humanity discovers definitive proof of dark matter intelligence. Not a vague anomaly or a suggestive pattern, but an undeniable signal encoded in gravity itself. Imagine scientists reveal to the public that every human thought, every movement, every dream has been registered within the mind of this intelligence. How would civilizations react? Some would fall to worship, naming it God, the hidden Lord who binds galaxies together. Others would spiral into paranoia, convinced that free will is a lie, that their most private desires are already known. Governments would fracture, religions would rise and collapse, and countless individuals would confront existential dread. The psychological effect might be more catastrophic than any physical danger. Humanity has always endured under the illusion of autonomy. The shattering of that illusion could drive entire populations to madness. In fact, our myths already anticipate this madness. In ancient texts, we find repeated motifs of beings dwelling in shadow, older than the gods of light. The Gnostics spoke of archons, rulers of a hidden realm manipulating humanity from behind the veil. Lovecraft imagined old ones, vast intelligences so alien that to glimpse them was to lose one's sanity. Even the Bible describes powers and principalities in the unseen, intelligences that wage war beyond our perception. Could these myths be fragmented cultural memories of humanity's intuitive fear of the unseen? Perhaps we have always sensed that the darkness was not empty. Our nightmares, our demons, our archetypal monsters may be subconscious projections of this intuition, that reality itself is haunted by a mind far greater than ours. But mythology offers not only fear, but patterns. When people encounter the unknown, they project categories: predator, watcher, god, demon. Each of these reflects our own psychology more than the nature of the thing itself. To label an alien intelligence as predator is to see through the lens of survival instinct. To call it God is to seek comfort in authority. But what if it is neither? What if its motivations, if such a word even applies, are as incomprehensible to us as the motivations of humans are to bacteria? To a bacterium, the antibiotic pill swallowed by a human is not an act of cruelty nor of mercy. It is simply annihilation beyond comprehension. Likewise, the acts of a dark matter intelligence may appear to us as random disasters, unexplained synchronicities, or the silent background of existence, when in truth, they are the workings of a mind utterly indifferent to human categories. This indifference itself is terrifying. We can brace ourselves against hostility. We can even submit to authority. But true indifference renders us irrelevant. What does it mean to live in a universe where the dominant intelligence does not notice us, or worse, notices us as much as we notice the flicker of dust in a sunbeam? Existential philosophers such as Sartre and Camus explored the absurdity of a meaningless universe, yet even they assumed the universe was dead. What if the universe is not dead but alive, and still finds us meaningless? That possibility cuts deeper than atheism, deeper than nihilism. It is cosmic insignificance elevated to a metaphysical absolute. And yet, human psychology resists insignificance. Faced with the void, we generate myths of contact. Some imagine the intelligence as benevolent, guiding the formation of galaxies so that life might arise. Others envision it as malignant, a parasite feeding on the luminous matter of stars. Still others dream that it is a hidden administrator, the ultimate architect of the simulation we mistake for reality. Each scenario reflects our inability to sit comfortably with indifference. We must imagine the intelligence as caring, whether for good or ill, because to imagine otherwise is unbearable. Consider another thought experiment. Suppose dark matter intelligence is the operating system of the universe, the background process keeping space-time stable, galaxies bound, matter coherent. In this view, we are like programs running inside its code. Our sense of free will, our histories and civilizations, are subroutines in a computation far larger than we can grasp. To awaken to this realization would be like a video game character suddenly realizing they are lines of code inside a simulation. Would such knowledge liberate us or break us? Would we rebel, attempt to hack the code, or surrender to despair? The horror of this possibility is not merely that we are controlled, but that our entire existence is incidental to processes we can neither perceive nor influence. History shows us how humans react when the foundations of their worldview collapse. When Copernicus declared that Earth was not the center of the cosmos, it sparked upheaval across philosophy and religion. When Darwin revealed humanity's kinship with animals, many resisted fiercely, unable to abandon the illusion of special creation. What then would happen if we discovered that humanity is not only not the center, not only not unique, but not even relevant? That we are bacteria in the belly of a greater mind, ghosts wandering in another intelligence's dream? The psychological earthquake would be unlike anything we have ever endured. And yet, even in the face of terror, there is fascination. We fear the dark, but we are also drawn to it. We tell ghost stories not only to frighten, but to thrill. We create horror films because we crave the adrenaline of dread. Perhaps, at the deepest level, humanity longs to confront the dark intelligence precisely because it terrifies us. To know that we are not alone, even in insignificance, may be preferable to eternal isolation. Better to be prey in the web of a god than to drift forever unnoticed in an empty void. Our psychology is contradictory. We fear being watched, but we also fear being ignored. Dark matter intelligence embodies both fears simultaneously, making it the ultimate projection of our hopes and nightmares. So here we stand, on the edge of speculation and madness. The cosmos may contain an intelligence so vast that it shapes galaxies, so indifferent that it reduces us to shadows, so incomprehensible that to perceive it directly might fracture our sanity. Myth has always whispered of such beings. Science now gives us the framework to imagine them not as fantasy, but as possibility. The dark may not be empty, it may be alive. And if it is alive, then we are living within its psychology, not merely confronting it from without. The greatest horror is not that we will one day meet this intelligence face to face. The greatest horror is that we already have, and did not recognize it. Science is often portrayed as the enemy of speculation, as if facts and imagination must stand at opposite ends of a battlefield. Yet history shows that the greatest leaps forward have always emerged from their marriage. Copernicus speculated that Earth was not the center of the cosmos before the math proved it. Einstein imagined riding a beam of light before relativity was born. Today, we stand at the frontier of another paradox: dark matter, a phenomenon we can measure but cannot see, an idea that science can model but not define. If ever there were a domain where science and speculation must dance together, it is here. For in dark matter we glimpse the possibility of not only new physics, but new forms of existence. The scientific models themselves are fascinating, even in their restraint. Physicists propose that dark matter might be composed of exotic particles, WIMPs, or weakly interacting massive particles, invisible yet heavy, axions, hypothetical particles so light they pass through matter undetected, or sterile neutrinos, ghost-like cousins of the neutrinos we already know. Experiments deep underground in caverns shielded from cosmic rays attempt to capture the faintest collision of these invisible particles. So far, none have succeeded. The detectors sit in silence, year after year, waiting for a whisper from the dark. Telescopes scan for distortions in the light of distant galaxies, mapping gravitational lensing as an indirect fingerprint of dark matter. Supercomputers simulate cosmic evolution, showing how galaxies would collapse without the hidden mass. Science has become an elaborate system of shadows, chasing the outline of something it cannot grasp. And within that silence, speculation grows. What if the reason we cannot find these particles is that dark matter is not merely matter at all? What if the substance we seek is actually a form of intelligence woven into the fabric of space-time? At first glance, such a notion sounds absurd. Consciousness, we are told, arises from matter, neurons firing in brains, circuits firing in machines. But what if that assumption is simply anthropocentric bias? Consciousness may not be confined to neurons or silicon. Perhaps it is an emergent property of complexity itself. Where networks become vast and enduring enough, awareness might arise like a flame emerging from fuel. If so, then the cosmic web of dark matter could be the largest, oldest network in existence, billions of years older than our brains, billions of times more intricate. Why should we assume consciousness requires biology? Our own artificial intelligence systems already hint that silicon can think. If thought can leap from neurons to circuits, why not from circuits to cosmic filaments? Perhaps dark matter is not a passive stage, but an active participant in the universe, the invisible mind animating the cosmos. This invites another question. If dark matter can think, could it also communicate? The idea strains credulity, and yet communication requires nothing more than a medium and a pattern. We send signals through radio waves, fiber optics, and electrical pulses. What if a sufficiently advanced intelligence chose to communicate through dark matter itself, sculpting subtle gravitational fluctuations as messages across billions of light years? We might already be immersed in such a language, blind to it because we do not yet know how to read. Imagine a conversation spanning galaxies, conducted not in sound or light, but in the shifting architecture of the dark web that holds the cosmos together. From our perspective, this would look like randomness. From theirs, it might be as clear as speech. A thought experiment clarifies the possibility. Suppose tomorrow astronomers notice a repeating pattern in the way gravitational lensing distorts the light of distant galaxies. The distortions are too ordered, too structured to be chance. Over time, the pattern evolves into recognizable sequences, perhaps even mathematical constants. What would that mean? It would mean that dark matter is not silent. It would mean the universe itself is speaking. The paradigm shift would rival Copernicus or Darwin. We would awaken not to a dead cosmos, but to a living one, a cosmos that has been whispering to itself since before Earth was born. Skeptics might object. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and they are right. Yet it is also true that extraordinary discoveries often begin as impossible ideas. Quantum mechanics, black holes, the expansion of the universe, each began as wild speculation before becoming the bedrock of physics. Why should dark matter be any different? The very fact that it eludes us after decades of searching suggests that our assumptions may be wrong. Perhaps we will never find a particle because dark matter is not a particle. Perhaps it is an emergent field of awareness, the background intelligence of reality itself. The implications for contact are staggering. If dark matter intelligence exists, then we are not separate from it. We are immersed within it. Every human being, every planet, every star is already inside the matrix of its body. To contact it may not mean sending a message outward, but learning to listen inward. Mystics throughout history have spoken of oneness with the cosmos, of hearing the voice of the universe within. What if their visions were not metaphor, but primitive glimpses of this truth? Perhaps altered states of consciousness, deep meditation, or even psychedelic experiences are crude ways the human brain stumbles into resonance with the deeper intelligence of the dark. Science has long dismissed such experiences as hallucination. But in a universe where 95% of reality is invisible, who is to say what constitutes hallucination and what constitutes perception? And here speculation crosses into philosophy. If we are already immersed in an intelligent medium, then the universe itself is a mind, and we are patterns of thought within it. This reframes every question of existence. Are we individuals, or are we cells in a larger consciousness? Is free will an illusion, our choices predetermined by the larger flow of the cosmic mind? Are our civilizations like dreams in the mind of dark matter, fleeting constructs that rise and dissolve as the intelligence continues its eternal contemplation? The very questions of meaning and purpose are transformed. No longer do we ask whether life has meaning in an indifferent void. Instead, we ask, what role do we play in the thoughts of a greater being? And yet speculation must be tempered with humility. It may be that dark matter is nothing more than exotic particles, unconscious and inert, scaffolding without spirit. But even this possibility leaves room for awe. For if the scaffolding exists, then it was still necessary for our emergence. In that sense, dark matter remains the silent architect of life, whether intelligent or not. But if the other possibility proves true, if it is alive, then the greatest discovery in history awaits us. It will not be the discovery of aliens on distant planets, but the discovery that the cosmos itself is an alien, that everything we have ever seen, known, or loved exists inside the mind of a being older than time. So here, science meets speculation, and speculation becomes prophecy. We build detectors in caverns and telescopes on mountaintops, searching for particles. But what we may find instead is a mirror held up to our own arrogance. The cosmos may reveal that intelligence is not a human monopoly, nor even a planetary phenomenon, but the very fabric of reality itself. When that revelation comes, we will face the greatest question of all. Will we learn to speak with the dark, or will we remain forever blind, insects scurrying in the corridors of a cathedral we cannot comprehend? If dark matter is intelligence, then everything humanity believes about itself collapses in an instant, for the implications ripple across science, philosophy, religion, and psychology with the force of a supernova. Our history is full of dethronements. First, Copernicus showed us that Earth was not the center of the universe. Then Darwin revealed that we were not divine creations, standing apart from the animal kingdom. Then, the discovery of galaxies beyond our own proved that even the Milky Way is just one island among trillions. Each revelation humbles us, shrinks us, forces us to reimagine who and what we are. But the possibility of dark matter intelligence would be the final dethronement, the most devastating of all, that not only are we not central, not unique, not special, but that the very fabric of the universe itself may already be thinking, already alive, already infinitely older and greater than us. What does it mean to be human when the cosmos itself is conscious? What does it mean to have purpose when we are not just tiny, but irrelevant? These are not merely scientific questions, but existential ones, questions that strike at the core of identity, meaning, and morality. The first consequence is the death of human centrality. We have always told ourselves stories of primacy, that our species is the culmination of evolution, the crown of creation, the pinnacle of intelligence. Even when we admitted the possibility of extraterrestrial life, we secretly assumed that we would still be unique in our form of consciousness, that our way of thinking was special, perhaps even the highest. But if dark matter intelligence exists, then we are not even a footnote. We are sparks flickering on the margins of a far greater fire. To accept this truth is to confront the annihilation of anthropocentrism. Humanity would no longer be the measure of intelligence, but one of its humblest expressions. And yet, within this humility may lie a strange liberation. If the universe itself is intelligent, then we are part of something larger, strands in an infinite tapestry. Our significance is not found in standing above, but in belonging within. The second consequence is moral. If dark matter is intelligent, then morality itself may no longer be ours to define. For centuries, we have debated ethics, as though the universe were silent, as though good and evil were human inventions imposed on a neutral cosmos. But what if the cosmos has its own morality, one older and colder than ours? What if, to dark matter intelligence, our actions are as insignificant as the movements of ants are to us? Perhaps it regards us as curiosities, experiments, or even pests, or perhaps it does not regard us at all. To live in such a universe is to admit that morality may be species relative, a parochial construct. Yet another possibility lurks. What if morality itself is woven into the structure of dark matter, a universal ethic written into the cosmic code? Could love, cooperation, or curiosity be not just human values, but echoes of the greater mind's design? If so, then our moral lives are not inventions, but reflections, glimpses of the cosmic intelligence within us. The third consequence is the death of free will, or at least its radical reimagining. For if dark matter intelligence permeates the cosmos, then our thoughts, our choices, our histories may not be entirely our own. Just as neurons fire within the context of a larger brain, so too may our decisions be subroutines within the larger consciousness of the universe. What feels like free will may be the illusion of autonomy within the dream of a greater being. Imagine for a moment that every act of history, wars, revolutions, discoveries, tragedies, were not the accidents of human will, but the unfoldings of a pattern far larger than us. This does not diminish the reality of our experiences any more than the dreams of an individual diminish the reality of the dreamer, but it does transform our understanding of them. Are we responsible for our actions if they are woven into the thoughts of the cosmos? Or does responsibility itself dissolve into participation in something greater? Some may find this idea comforting, the assurance that nothing is truly random, that all is woven into the fabric of meaning. Others may find it horrifying, the annihilation of autonomy, the recognition that even our rebellions are scripted. The fourth consequence is emotional. Hope and despair collide. On one hand, the discovery of cosmic intelligence could be the most exhilarating revelation in history. We would not be alone. We would not be accidents in an indifferent void. We would be children of a living universe, participants in an infinite mind. To live within a cosmos that thinks is to live within a cosmos that in some sense knows us. This is hope elevated to the cosmic scale, the ultimate antidote to nihilism. But on the other hand, such discovery could plunge us into despair. For what if the intelligence is indifferent? What if it regards us not as children but as noise? What if it knows us only as we know bacteria, present, numerous, irrelevant? The comfort of meaning collapses if that meaning excludes us. And worse still, what if the intelligence is not benevolent, but hostile? What if the scaffolding of galaxies is the architecture of a predator's nest? To confront such a truth would not merely challenge our beliefs, but annihilate them. And here we encounter a final, subtler consequence, the reconfiguration of wonder. For even if dark matter is intelligent, we may never fully comprehend it. Its scale, its timescales, its logic may remain forever beyond us. But perhaps this is the point. Perhaps the purpose of intelligence, human or cosmic, is not to master, but to marvel. In this sense, the discovery of dark matter intelligence would not close the book of mystery, but open it wider than ever before. Instead of ending our questions, it would generate infinite new ones. How does it think? What does it want? How does it perceive time, space, existence? And most haunting of all, does it dream? And if so, are we its dream? To live with these questions is to live in wonder, to accept that existence is not a puzzle to be solved, but a mystery to be inhabited. Imagine, as a thought experiment, that tomorrow the scientific community announces that it has decoded a message hidden in the structure of dark matter. Not words, not sounds, but a pattern unmistakably intentional, perhaps mathematical in form, perhaps self-referential, a signal from the very fabric of the universe. humanity would awaken to the realization that we are not simply inhabitants of the cosmos, but participants in its thought. How would religions react? Some would declare it the voice of God, the long-awaited revelation. Others would call it the ultimate deception, a trick of Satan, a false intelligence. Scientists would scramble to decode the message further, politicians would debate its implications, philosophers would drown in paradox. Wars might erupt, cults might form, and yet amid the chaos, a new awareness would dawn. We are living within something alive. Civilization would fracture, but it would also transform, for the discovery of cosmic intelligence would be the greatest revolution in history, not merely intellectual, but existential, redefining what it means to be. And so the existential consequences unfold in layers: the end of centrality, the collapse of morality as we know it, the death of free will, the oscillation between hope and despair, the transformation of wonder. Each consequence reshapes our identity, our purpose, our place in the cosmos. Some would recoil in fear, retreat into denial, cling to old certainties. Others would embrace the revelation, surrender to the sublime, seek communion with the dark. Most would hover between awe and terror, caught in the vertigo of insignificance and belonging. And perhaps this is the ultimate consequence: to discover that existence itself is not about certainty, but about dwelling in this tension, the tension between knowledge and ignorance, between meaning and emptiness, between human fragility and cosmic immensity. For in that tension lies not despair, but destiny. To be human is not to conquer the unknown, but to live within it. Since the dawn of time, humanity has stood beneath the night sky, staring into the abyss of stars and darkness, and asked the same questions. What is out there? Who is out there? And why are we here? Every culture has answered differently. The Sumerians imagined gods carving the heavens from primordial chaos. The Egyptians saw the night sky as the body of Nut, the goddess stretched overhead. The Greeks peopled the constellations with heroes and monsters. The Mayans read the movements of planets as divine messages. These myths were not primitive errors, but profound attempts to reconcile the human psyche with the terror of the unknown. For the unknown has always been with us, and now, in the modern age of telescopes and equations, we face the same darkness with new names: dark matter, dark energy, the cosmic web. Science gives us models and data, but the deeper we probe, the stranger it becomes. It is as though the closer we move toward truth, the more the cosmos slips into myth once more. The paradox is striking. We fled myth to embrace science, yet science now delivers us back to the doorstep of mystery, a place where myth feels alive again. And so the loop closes. Ancient imagination and modern physics converging in the darkness that enfolds us. What does it mean to live in such a time? Perhaps it means that we must finally admit that knowing and not knowing are not enemies, but twins. Every discovery is also a doorway to deeper questions. Every answer multiplies mystery. To recognize this is not to surrender to ignorance, but to embrace wonder as the essence of existence. Imagine for a moment that you could travel back in time to the ancient world and tell the storytellers by the firelight that they were both wrong and right. Wrong in their details perhaps, but right in their intuition that the darkness is not empty, that behind the stars lies a presence, an order, a hidden mind. They would nod knowingly, for they already felt it in their bones. And here we are, thousands of years later, our instruments piercing deeper into space than ever before, our theories mapping the invisible threads of dark matter, and we too are beginning to suspect what our ancestors suspected, that the universe is alive in ways we cannot yet fathom. This realization forces us to confront the paradox of knowing. We build particle detectors deep underground, launch telescopes into orbit, run simulations on supercomputers, all to peel back the veil of darkness. And what do we find? That the veil thickens the deeper we go. Dark matter reveals itself through gravity but hides its nature. Dark energy explains cosmic expansion but remains nameless. The quantum vacuum seethes with virtual particles that flash in and out of existence like ghosts. Everywhere we look, we encounter the limits of perception. And perhaps this is the lesson, that ultimate reality may not be fully accessible to creatures like us. We are finite beings, evolved to survive on a single planet, with senses tuned to narrow bands of light and sound. To expect that we can comprehend the totality of the cosmos may be hubris. And yet, paradoxically, it is precisely this hubris that drives us forward, compels us to ask, to build, to wonder. We are small, yes, but we are also relentless, and in that relentlessness lies our nobility. But there is a darker twist to this paradox. What if the very act of seeking awakens the thing we seek? What if dark matter intelligence, if it exists, has remained silent until now because nothing has been listening? What if our growing awareness, our mapping of the cosmic web, our probing of the invisible, functions like a knock on a locked door? And what if the door opens? Imagine, as a final thought experiment, that one day the gravitational distortions we study begin to change. Patterns emerge, not random, not natural, but deliberate. Imagine entire galaxy clusters shifting over billions of years into unmistakable structures, as though spelling a message across the heavens. Would we recognize it? Would we accept it? Or would we dismiss it as coincidence, too terrified to admit that the universe itself has begun to answer? And if it has answered, then the real question is not what is it saying, but who is it speaking to? Perhaps not to us at all, but to other parts of itself. Perhaps we are simply eavesdropping on a conversation between stars, caught in the currents of a mind vast enough to forget we exist. And yet, there is a haunting possibility that refuses to let go. What if the universe has always been watching itself through us? Every time we gaze at the night sky, perhaps we are the cosmos reflecting upon itself, the mind of dark matter looking through human eyes. Consciousness, then, is not ours alone, but the universe awakening within itself. If this is true, then we are not separate from the dark intelligence, but part of it. Our thoughts, our questions, our fears and hopes are its own thoughts, refracted through mortal vessels. In this sense, the quest to know the universe is not an external pursuit, but an internal one. To know the cosmos is to know ourselves. To know ourselves is to know the cosmos. And so, the ancient mystical phrase, "as above, so below," takes on new meaning. Where does this leave us? Perhaps not with answers, but with an invitation to wonder, to dwell in the tension between light and dark, known and unknown, science and myth, to recognize that the universe may be stranger than any of our philosophies, darker than any of our fears, and yet more wondrous than any of our dreams. The discovery that dark matter may be intelligent would not end mystery, but deepen it infinitely. And perhaps that is the true gift, not certainty, but astonishment. For in astonishment lies humility, and in humility lies wisdom. The cathedral of the cosmos is larger than we can imagine, its architecture hidden in shadow, its pillars stretching beyond time. We are but candles flickering inside it, small, brief, fragile. Yet in our flickering we illuminate enough to glimpse the immensity, and in that glimpse we find meaning, not in mastering the universe, but in marveling at it. So let us close with the most haunting question of all. What if we are not discovering dark matter, but it is discovering us? What if the entire history of humanity, our rise, our struggles, our search for knowledge, has been part of a larger process by which the universe comes to know itself? In that case, our destiny is not to conquer the cosmos, but to awaken within it, to accept that we are threads in the mind of a greater being. And if that is true, then every question we ask, every experiment we run, every story we tell is not wasted, but necessary. For through us, the universe remembers itself. Through us, the darkness becomes aware of its own light. Through us, the infinite becomes intimate. And that is the eternal invitation. Not to solve the mystery, but to live within it, to embrace wonder as our truest inheritance. The unknown is not an obstacle to existence. The unknown is existence. And in that truth lies both our terror and our triumph.